Katie K with Carolina Foothills Real Estate, and this week I'm bringing you the pros and cons of living in one of the sweetest cities in the upstate of South Carolina, Anderson. I feel like I can attest to this because this is where I grew up. I went to middle school, high school, and college here, and now my sweet family lives on the outskirts of Anderson, South Carolina. So before I jump in, I do have a really fun fact. I don't know if you've ever heard about the movie Radio, but it's such a sweet, inspirational movie. If you haven't checked it out, definitely watch it. But if you have watched it, you'll know what I'm talking about. In middle school, I rode the same bus as Radio, and we would go pick him up from the high school and then drop him off, at his home. And so I got to know him over the years, and he was always so sweet, so kind, and definitely lived up to just how the movie portrayed him, and his memory lives on forever. So again, if you need a good movie to watch and you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. But let's go ahead and jump in to the pros and cons. This is going to be a very laid back conversation, like I would be talking to one of my buyers or sellers. So I just want you to know that I'm going to be very transparent and open with my pros and cons list that I came up with myself. So the first pros that I have on my list is the fact that we are located near some really fun big cities like Atlanta, Georgia, Asheville, North Carolina, Clemson. If you like a small town feel, Clemson is perfect, and they have amazing food. And then obviously the football. So that's really fun, and with all those bigger cities brings things like shopping, especially some fun mom and pop shops, or shopping at different outlets is always such a fun time, and as well as the food. The food is amazing. If you need some recommendations about food, definitely reach out to me. My email is on my thumbnail, so it's at the very beginning of this or in the comments section. I could go on and on about food because I'm a big foodie myself, so I won't go off on a tangent, but in case you're interested, let me know. We are also located really closely to the mountains, and it is stunning, especially when you're driving up to Asheville. You can just see the outline of the mountains. It's so beautiful. And the beach, we're not too far from Myrtle Beach, or if you like the Florida beaches better, we're pretty close to those too. Next, we have a ton of different activities for families to do. I think one of my favorite parts about living in Anderson, especially through my middle school and high school years, were the fact that my family always did something on the weekend, so everything is very family friendly. For example, right now it is fall, and there's something called Denver Downs. It's a big old place with a pumpkin patch and a corn maze and different activities for kids, and also food. So that is always so fun. Moving on, we also have a lot of different job opportunities because everything is really up and coming right now. And so I'm just gonna list off a few big companies that have really stood down the roots here. So we have BMW, and then we have a new company called Arthrex, and my husband, he works for Michelin, so I'm gonna mention Michelin, and there's a ton of different other companies, and I love that because I feel like it's always bringing new friends and family to live closer to us, and so that's so fun. One of my absolute favorite parts about living in Anderson is the fact that we were about 5 minutes from the lake. So if you like that lake life, it is perfect. I mean, some of my most fondest memories are getting sunburnt, being on the back of the tube, back of the boat on the tube, and just getting slung from side to side and hitting the water. It was just such a fun time. And eating big old public subs for lunch. But I'm gonna wrap this up for the pros because I don't want this to be too long of a video. But it does snow here sometimes, but I would say for the most part it's pretty cool or warm or just very, very hot. So from December to February, I would say I wear a jacket, but other times of the year it's either sweaters like these or short sleeves and shorts and dresses. And I think that pretty much covers it for the pros. If you have any more comments or questions about that, I would love to answer any questions you have. Oh, you know what? One thing I want to touch on is Just in terms of the housing market, our taxes are lower here, and the fact that we have more affordable houses, if you talk to someone from the West Coast moving to North Carolina or South Carolina over here, you'll find that the way that they, basically the amount of equity that they have when it transfers over to South Carolina, they are able to put a huge down payment, which is incredible. I wanted to add that fact. I think I get carried away with the shopping and the food, but that's really important too. So let's move on to some of the cons. I would say that when it rains, it pours here, and there's a lot of flooding that happens, and that can sometimes halt the amount of construction that happens or the amount of work on a construction site that is getting finished. So that's just something to think about. Our soil also has a lot of, it's very hard because it's the hard orange clay, and it has a lot of like rocks and granites in it. So that's something to consider. And then in the months of December and February, we sometimes have what is called ice storms. So I mentioned that sometimes it snows, but it ices a lot, and that can hinder, you know, I'm sorry, we're getting our gutters worked on. I'm sorry if you hear that. But sometimes that can just hinder businesses and going to work. But I will say, just as a child, we had a lot of school cancellations, and we got to just hang out with the neighborhood kids, and it was always so fun. Those are one of my fondest memories too. But with the fact that everything is up and coming and there's more jobs that are coming here and everything, sometimes traffic gets a little out of control, especially that 5 o'clock like rush hour. You just got off work, you're going home, picking up your children from school. Sometimes it gets a little hectic on I-85 or like Woodruff Road or Clemson Boulevard. And lastly, I want to touch on allergies. I don't know what it is about South Carolina, but we have some different plants that really bloom, and my allergies this time of year are always pretty rough. I'm gonna knock on some wood, they're all right now. But anyway, so that wraps up our pros and cons of living in the sweet city of Anderson, South Carolina. So I hope all of that made sense and was helpful and informative to you. Again, my name is Katie K with Carolina Foothills Real Estate, and if you need me, you can email me and then we can chat further.